Hey, my name's Nina Christian. I'm a marketer based in Melbourne, and I help people build powerful connected brand primarily using organic content marketing. So for many years, I've helped a lot of the big end of town, big brands using sorts of marketing to build their brand. And in more recent years, after having an agency for 20 years, I have focused more on smaller businesses and as well individuals because the landscape is changing as well. And so people who need to build a brand so that they can build their business and get their message out to the world. So a lot of the principles are ubiquitous in the sense that they apply equally, just the way that they should get applied and the way that they are expressed needs to change based on the context and who's doing it. So getting into content and what we are looking at today, the 7 mistakes that people make when it comes to content marketing. So the first mistake that I see most commonly is not aligning content to your business goals. So basically just putting out content for the sake of it, taking the throw enough mud and hoping some of it will stick approach, and having a very clear pathway and strategy behind why you are even putting out content in the first place. So this is probably the biggest one, because if you don't have it right, you can expend so much time and energy, money, resource, and precious focus in the wrong direction, and that doesn't actually then yield business results. Whereas if you took the time to get that right from the beginning and understand very clearly what commercial outcomes you wanted to see, and from that reverse engineer your content, you can then actually see a way better return on all of your content marketing. So that's not mistake number 1. Mistake number 2 that so many people see, thankfully there's a slow trend moving away from this, but I'd still say by far and away a lot of people are not across it, and that is posting high caliber content that really delivers value. And that doesn't necessarily mean it needs to be long and exhaustive and in-depth. In fact, short, punchy and quick win outcomes is definitely the way to go. And research indicates, studies show that the most powerful type of content at the moment for getting engagement and results is snackable content that delivers quick wins. And so that is number 2, not having content that actually delivers value. So every single piece of content that you put out, this might sound very obvious, but you would forget how many people actually miss this. Through every single piece of content should have the lens of, what is my audience actually going to get out of this? And obviously having the 80-20 rule, or really it should be more like 90-10, whereas if you do have some sort of product or service that you're offering, that 90% should be actually delivering value, and then 10% is promotional. So in that value, a lot of people miss what it means to deliver value, and it's more than just information these days. It's actually giving them something that's going to help make their business or life better in some way, shape or form. So that's mistake number 2. Mistake number 3 that I see very commonly, and kind of a do it once thing and then you can fix it, but it's really important, and that is not having a strong brand identity around your content. So it really is not a great look when you've got a whole lot of different mismatched content going out there and you don't have a strong brand identity pulling it all together. And frankly, you're wasting an opportunity, because according to Google, as marketers, there's always been the rule of 7. At least people need to see you 7 times before they'll do business with you. Nowadays, the bar has gotten higher with the proliferation of so much information and so many voices competing for attention. Google actually cited more around 21 to 24 times that a person needs to see you or hear you or engage with your brand or come across you before they will consider doing business with you. Now, of course, there are exceptions, especially if you deliver out of the park high value content. However, par for the course is that 21 to 24. Now, you are in a way better position to leverage that if you have a strong brand identity wrapped around your content, because you are not then having just good content and memorable because of the information that it's imparting and delivering, but because of the visual overview. And so you maximize your chance of being memorable, and cutting through. And when done right, when that brand is done in a way that is a true expression of you, I mean, this is not just go onto Canva and randomly cherry pick some colors and go for whatever flavor of the month is offered on the templates, or going to your designer and just saying, here, just create anything based on my logo. It's really, it needs to be a thoughtful process from the get-go, which is how does your brand identity, which is a lot more than just visuals, but visuals are an important part of that. Logo, imagery, typography, colors, even brand tone, brand voice, personality. How does that reinforce and express that which you stand for? And when you have that nailed and you have that wrapped around your content, you increase the memorability and the cut through by a country mile. And the other thing that you do is shortcut the connection factor or expedite the connection factor in a way that people will actually receive what you're saying with greater receptiveness and authority, because the way the brand is connecting emotionally. And so the good news is that you don't need to reinvent the wheel each week, each month, even each year when you do that, although obviously your brand will evolve as you evolve and as your offering evolves and as your messaging evolves. But having it right and having it done once is so powerful, and then just takes the thinking out of that side of things and allows you to concentrate on content and having high value content that really delivers a powerful punch in terms of value and impact to the reader, which of course they then become indebted to you for showing up and delivering that content and helping them make their business and lives better as a result. Number 4, having a random assortment of marketing tactics. And that is basically just trying things here, there, and everywhere without having a solid strategy as to how all of those actually aligned with your business goals, and getting and actually mastering a couple of them before trying different ones. So a lot of people are susceptible to other people's marketing messages where one single tactic or one single tool is presented as the strategy that's going to get them out of content marketing overwhelm land. And as a result, they expend a lot of time and energy in different things that don't actually serve them. And so doing different things that are random just for the sake of it is the quickest way to exhaust yourself and get disillusioned with your marketing. Whereas there is a really strong case for experimentation, but experimentation belongs in the container where you have a benchmark by which to measure, is something successful or not, is something working or not, and that you can tell quite quickly, is it working, and that you can tweak and optimize. But that necessitates a real strategic approach. And so having like random tactics all over the place and not understanding how those fit together, how they complement each other, and how they work together is an absolute way to waste time and energy on content. Number 5 of the big mistakes, and this is a very, very tactical, practical one, is not leveraging the native features of at least one channel or platform that you're on for organic reach. So a lot of people think that they need to be on all the social platforms, and if you're at a stage in your business where you can manage that comfortably and with ease and in a strategic way, well done to you. But a lot of people don't, and they do show up and basically just try and post willy-nilly on a whole lot of different platforms without fully leveraging at least one of them. Now, you're going to get a lot better organic reach and a lot better exposure if you double down and go deep on the features of one, and then have a primary amplification channel, and then from there then potentially have some secondary ones in place. But the idea is that you have one where you utilize not just a post and ghost approach, but you actually engage deeply with the features that platform offers, be it YouTube, be it Instagram, be it LinkedIn, be it Facebook. Although that said, right now, if we're talking strictly organic growth, Facebook is probably the hardest one in terms of if you're just using your business page. That's really a tough gig at the moment with the algorithm, unless you're putting money behind that. And for a lot of people starting out, that doesn't really make sense, especially if you don't have an audience yet and aren't completely dialed in on your messaging and your branding and your value proposition and all of that just yet. But Instagram also, the reach is really, really tough organically just using the feed. But if you are able to leverage things like stories and especially reels at the moment, you definitely increase your chances of organic growth. And likewise for things like LinkedIn, just posting is going to get you limited reach. But if you're going all in on that platform and doing things, utilizing all the features, things like polls, things like carousels, LinkedIn Live, if you've got that, stories, video, and you are way more likely to get love by the platform themselves, who will then push your message in front of more people organically. Now, the days of organic reach, free organic reach on a lot of platforms are slowly changing. I won't say coming to an end, but LinkedIn certainly is now where Facebook was a few years ago. Right now, if you are just starting out and building a brand and wanting to do organic stuff on Facebook, it very much has moved to a pay-to-play thing. There are some things that are working well in terms of groups, and one of the things as well that's I've reluctantly embraced, because for a long time I really didn't want to, and that is being okay around using personal profiles. If that's something that you're seriously doing, you're actually wanting to grow an online presence. I completely shut that down for many years, but more recently in the more recent months, even than years, became okay to use that for some things, not all the time obviously, but just because the organic reach of it is so good, and also because so many people were reaching out to me wanting to connect with me on that via that way. So that wasn't even an outbound thing for me. That was just people who were wanting the type of help and support that I offer reaching out to me. And so rather than just shutting that down, I left that open. The key message remains, whatever platform, if you don't have bandwidth to be on all of them, whatever one that you choose, really go deep and maximize the native features and have a look through all of those features, which one works best for the type of content that you're producing. So if you're doing a lot of video, the features that work best for you may be different. If it's highly text, if it's imagery based, or if it's written content, it's going to be very much a matter of test. But all of those platforms have different expressions that are going to suit your style better. So pay attention to that. So that's a really huge practical tip around leveraging the features of one platform in particular for organic growth. The next big mistake that I see a lot of people do with their content, and this is especially a lot of businesses, some people don't do this and some people do it really badly, is not having a clear call to action and clear next steps when it comes to their content. And that's not necessarily okay, here's my awesome content, now buy my product. That's not what we mean by call to action. There is definitely a journey that people go on, and that there's a time and place. So remember, I talked earlier on about the 90-10 rule. There is a time and place. Like, I show up on social media all year long and deliver value and teach and bring value. And then a couple of days of the year, I'll show up and say, yep, my program's open. If you want to jump in, feel free. I stand in good integrity doing that, because primarily I'm showing up on all of my platforms delivering a lot of value. But even the way that you do it, it's not necessarily just like a buy my stuff thing. It's taking people on a journey. So especially if you're just putting out content and for the sake of it, and you don't give people anything afterwards, it doesn't need to be buy my stuff, book an appointment, here's my product, here's the awesome thing that I'm selling. It may be, okay, if you wanted to learn more about this, if you want to go deeper, it could be a link to another piece of content that you put out. And this is actually the best way, because the more content people consume from you, the more likely they are to ultimately want to go deeper and work personally with you or your company or your brand, or they'll get better understanding of your product. So the more, it sounds counterintuitive, but the more content you can get people to consume, the deeper that relationship is. So even if it's not paid content. So that's where things like podcasts come in really useful. If you're doing that, is they're not generally a huge lead generation thing in and of themselves. Not a whole lot of people will find you just from doing a podcast, but what they will do is they've heard your name somewhere, they will tune in, they'll listen, and they'll deepen their affinity with you and their relationship with you by hanging out with you and consuming your content via your podcast online. So having call to action for each of those pieces, it might be some sort of downloadable tool or guide or next step, or a way that they can join your list or your community so that they have access to more information, is vital in leveraging the time and effort that you're spending in showing up online to actually get people to take that next step with you. And then the final mistake that a lot of people fall prey to when it comes to content marketing is not having the right systems that power that. And that's the biggest one, I think, especially for a lot of marketers who are across the brand thing, they're across the value thing, they're across the strategy thing, they are probably across the call to action thing and the social platform thing. There's a lot of factors in the mix, as you can see that I've explained, but that big one that really underpins it and powers it from behind is the systems. And if you don't have systems in place for your content marketing, it very, very easily becomes exhausting and draining and unsustainable, because it does take effort. And if you are expending your decision making ability, you will very, very quickly fall into decision fatigue when you have to make decisions on a regular basis around where to be, what to post, who's going to do what. And then if you're producing any content of any substance, there are going to be probably team members involved and different layers and approval processes and publishing things and repurposing processes as well, in which you can greatly scale your reach with only a fraction of the extra effort. But to do those things and make them work, you need to have solid systems in place, and that's where a lot of people fall down. And they are the 7 biggest mistakes. I am loving delivering all this content. If there is anything in particular that you would like to hear or see, let me know. Reach out to me on social media, and I'm always happy to hear from you, always happy to connect. So on that note, I think I've done all the things I need to, except to say, if you like this and you know someone else who would benefit from it as well, put a lot into the broadcast, making sure that they have great value. Feel free to share it. And otherwise, I look forward to connecting with you next time. And I hope you have an awesome day, and I will see you around soon. All right, bye.